nasty guy. So in love might make you puke. She's the apple of his eye. Sit right down, we're gonna give you the scoop with Ryan Pfeiffer and Lisa Doop. Stamma-lamma ding-dong loop-de-loop. This is the story of a guy named Mr. Boop.
You're listening to Being Mr. Boop, Season 3! My name is Lisa Doop, and I'm Mr. Boop.
My name is Ryan Pfeiffer, and I am Mr. Boop.
My name is Pans Mode, and I am Mr. Boop.
Ryan, what is your name, Pans Mode? It's Monday, November 30th, 2020, and today we're reading the 201st ever Mr. Boop strip. But what happens in today's Mr. Boop?
Today's...
Alec Boop.
Yeah.
Shit.
I think you're the first person to ever ask, hey, when it says someone on the spreadsheet, who should say that? And it's the first time it's actually mattered.
Yeah.
Maybe we should decide before. And
it's anyone but me, basically.
Anyway, Alec Boop works with Peter Griffin and Bugs Bunny at Subway. I mean, yeah, I guess that's true. That's what happens.
And then in the spreadsheet, you linked the 94th comic. Where
that's
it won't
broken.
Stop.
That's broken. We linked it in the chat.
That's been broken for 100 episodes now. 6 episodes?
No, I don't know. That's not right. It hasn't been broken like that, I don't think. I don't know. It's been broken the whole time, I'm pretty sure. But it hasn't been broken just since episode 94. That's not when it broke. When it got broken. I don't think so. Anyway.
This is behind the scenes talk.
Welcome Pants Mode to the podcast.
Pants Mode. How many words is that?
Pants Mode.
It's
right there in their name.
That's like almost 100 words.
There's too many words.
It's literally
one word. It's one word. Pants Mode.
Pants Mode.
Pants
Yes.
Mode.
Pants Mode.
Yes.
Never mind. You're
here.
British. Never mind. Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
I am here.
Trousers mode. Is that better?
Yeah, way better. You can even call me penis mode if you want.
Wait, are they? Oh, just trousers mode?
Oh, now I understand.
I'm not that British, dude.
Excuse me, now I understand. I didn't know.
Hey, bro, my name
what
is
pants are. Maybe you told me
mode.
pantaloons mode. I would understand that.
Hey, bro, it's Tuesday, innit?
Okay.
Yes.
It's not.
Alright.
It's actually Monday.
It's Monday.
We just established.
We said all that.
We don't do Tuesdays on this podcast.
No, not anymore. Not after what happened last time.
No.
What is your history with Mr. Boop? Or this podcast being Mr. Boop? Have you heard this podcast before? I already know you haven't.
You're a fan,
I dance.
Yeah, exactly. I've been an avid listener of the podcast for like ages, since episode 2.
Oh, so you must be
involved with the lore of the comic. I especially like the part where Alex says it's boopin' time.
You
and
like
boops all those people. It's
like the
one
slang
of the best
guide?
comics of all time.
Yeah, what you like the slang guide? You like what's your favorite piece of slang from the slang guide?
My favorite piece of the slang guide, what's my favorite slang? I would have to say it's Morbin.
That's not on the slang
guide. That's close enough.
I thought you were gonna save it by actually
I thought you guys
to the
updated
slang
your
guide.
versions.
Huh?
I thought you guys updated the slang guides. I'm at the latest version.
It's locked. We're not allowed to update it.
No, we would have added Morbin, but
I would not have added that. I would have put my foot down. Have you read the strip before, or is this your first introduction to Mr. Boop?
Oh no, I've followed the comic since Alec drew the first one, where he says that he's married to Betty.
Okay, here's your question. Did you think that was Milhouse? When you first saw the strip, did you think it was Milhouse?
It's scientifically arguable whether he's like a descendant of Milhouse or other version of Milhouse, or just an unfortunate similarity.
You understand that it literally is Alec, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But we do not know for sure what Alec is.
You're saying real life Alec may be a descendant of Milhouse.
Yes.
Obviously, meaning
I don't think we've ever
there's irrefutable
that
proof.
theory.
Wait, I don't know what trouser mode's pronouns are. Clue me
It's
in.
he, they.
He,
But I also
they,
go
cool.
by Boop.
Okay, boop boop.
Yes?
De-doop.
Yes.
Boop. Yes. Well, I'm. Yeah, she.
I mean,
they,
that's
guess.
everyone's pronouns when we're on the podcast. Is boop.
Yeah, we're boop boop. And
Alright.
if you've got a problem with that,
No,
that's,
it would
we
be
don't.
no, it'd be boop/dupe.
Yes.
It would be pretty confusing because you got your both pronouns are Boop, so it would be kind of hard to distinguish who I'm referring to in this case.
Mm.
Well, yeah. I mean,
But also, we have names.
it's also plural. Boop is also the plural version.
What?
Well,
Oh.
perhaps,
referring-
but
like fish.
that's
Yeah.
not
Like
what
how
I
fish-
mean. You know.
Boop is singular and plural.
Yes, it is singular blur, but that's not what I mean when I say I would have a
Hey.
hard time distinguishing who I'm talking to when I say Boop.
I
Look
don't
at
know.
panel one.
I don't know what Boop is
You
talking
guys see
about.
panel 1? You were looking at the strip here?
We
Looking
haven't
at 201?
looked at any panels
Like,
yet.
are we supposed to look at the first one or the 201st one?
201st.
201st.
We
Yes,
covered
We
the
already
first
looked at
one
the
years
first one
ago.
last week because it was
Yeah.
actually the 200th one, which is still
Okay.
the first one again.
Interesting.
What do we see in
Yes.
panel? What do we
It
see
all
in
makes
panel
sense.
1?
4 panels. First panel, in panel 1, we see Alec, not Guinness, Robbins, Bugs
Boop,
Bunny.
Boop.
Well, Alec Robbins Boop.
Yeah.
And
no Guinness.
Peter Griffin, who is surprised, and
Peter
it
Griffin's
is
there,
established
too.
once again that they work at Quiznos, which
This
is
is the
kind of like
But it said
it's like a lore stable.
But the synopses said Subway. I'm confused.
Oh shit!
Also,
You're right.
Also,
I cannot believe this oversight. I
So-
thought you know better.
so they're all wearing Quiznos uniforms, which is a shirt that says Quiznos with an apron over it and a little what kind of hat are those called? Like a there's one of those hats with the tops out of them. We probably
I
have
mean,
this
I would
exact
say
same exchange
visor,
when they
but
came
they're
out.
not
Visor.
OAI, so they're not really visors.
Well,
Or are
visors
they?
aren't
Visor hats.
No, they
What do
are
you mean?
visors.
No,
They
they're
are
visors.
Yeah, they're visor hats.
You're right. They're visors, and they all say
Yeah.
Quiznos on them.
The visor hat was, I think it's like employed in like these Subway and Quiznos restaurants because of like
Yeah.
hygienic
Various-
reasons.
various
because
fast
hair
food
cannot get into food
places.
that
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
Which is kind of like I have to kind of question Alex's way of putting the visor hat on because the hair would be going to decide which will risk food safety because
I don't
hair
understand
would
how
be
these
more likely
visors
to fall out.
work because, like, why would you have a hat that doesn't cover the top of your hair then? Because then the hair can just stick out. What is it? How does it help?
Because like you know those mesh hats that school cafeteria ladies wear, that looks kind of ugly, and restaurants do not want that.
yeah, it
they
does.
want to look more stylish.
Yeah.
But
I've never heard of Quiznos before this strip.
but doesn't the hair
This was
come
my
out?
introduction.
The hair comes out the top still. Oh, Lisa, did you think it was a fake restaurant created for the comic? Did
I
that?
completely forgot what this was.
But
I-
did that
when I
occur,
read it-
did that
when I
occur to
read-
you? Like when it came up, did you assume that it was maybe fake? Was that
I
a
think
night-
I just thought it was Subway. I don't think I looked at it closely. I was like, yeah, they're back in the Subway uniforms, whatever. I didn't read what it said.
I wanted to comment on the logo because the logo, the actual Quiznos logo. Let me pull it up, just for comparison here. The actual Quiznos logo, which is, oh my god, they changed it. When did they change it? Wait a second.
This is the this is the first appearance of Peter Griffin in
I mean-
47 strips, by the way. This is our grand return
What about
of this
Bugs
beautiful
Bunny?
character. Oh man, I have to go back
When-
further to 46 since Bugs Bunny.
All right,
I'm-
so apparently they changed the
28, I mean.
Quiznos logo like last year, which
Okay, so it was after the comic.
I think this strip exactly the 201st. I think it came out right before the rebranding, so
Right.
that explains the good old Q. In
I was
there.
wondering
Or
if maybe
during the rebranding,
he just didn't hear about the rebranding. Like
Or maybe
that
it's
was
different
the
in
case.
Boop World.
like the franchisee doesn't really bother with changing the outfit.
That's
people
true.
still
That
know
does
it's
happen
Quiznos.
sometimes. I found a Wendy's with the old logo on it the other day, and I think it was just because where it was located that he couldn't afford to do the remodeling.
And besides, like, there's a clear difference between Quiznos and Subway, especially how they operate. Like, Subway doesn't really care about where their franchisees are. There's no exclusivity. But Quizno has, like, a more prestige system where it's like, you know, if you serve one area, you serve, like, more of that area instead of just, like, one block.
Yeah.
So they have, like, way better competition.
Subways, I've been to some pretty, but, like, so you really got to be selective with which Subways you go to, because some of them are really bad.
So you
it's very
definitely
hit or
know
miss.
that Alec has a stable job because he works at Quiznos with Bugs Bunny and Peter Griffin. And that kind of
Bugs Bunny
explains
didn't
why
used
Peter
to
Griffin
work-
can afford his shenanigans and Family Guy.
Bugs Bunny didn't used to work at, oh, hang on. I'm coming out of the
Used to work
illusion
at
of this
Amazon.
now. I'm coming out of the
I have
illusion
a
of this
que-
now.
wait-
Wait a
wait.
second. Why is
What
Bugs
does-
Bunny here? Why is Peter Griffin here? This is the real world.
Well, let's read.
Don't you know
the
it's Bugs
text
Bunny?
and see.
Quiznos is like Bugs Bunny's like second job.
But
He's having a little bit of a hard time since Space Jam. With his,
No,
Yeah,
that-
but
I don't
Bugs,
even- I
Bugs
don't
Bunny's
think
not
that
real.
Yeah.
But Bugs Bunny's not real.
okay,
How
But
do
in
you
the
know
real
it's not
world-
real?
This
Isn't
so
the
wasn't
comic
real before. This was-
autobiographical?
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
but Bugs, we were under the assumption that Bugs Bunny was fake when Book 4 started, right?
I guess he never said that. He
Well-
just said that he made up being married to Betty Boop. He never said Bugs Bunny wasn't really. But I get.
Well, maybe
I get-
maybe Bugs Bunny just serves as like a replacement for someone
Okay,
that he knows.
Here's my theory.
Ah.
Here's my theory. When Alec was
Zarko
writing the comic about being married to Betty Boop, and that was all a lie, and he had characters like Peter Griffin and Bugs Bunny in it, those were people he knew in real life. And maybe he worked at Subway. Maybe he changed. Maybe he just has changed to working at Quiznos since then. Like,
I mean,
and just not
Well, maybe
showing
I mean,
it.
I
was
like
lying
that
about
theory.
the
I like
Subway.
that theory, but here's the thing: like working at Subway is way worse than working at Quiznos, and we all know that Alex's situation is way better than anyone who works at Subway.
Maybe he got a
Like,
better
for example,
job.
being married to Betty Boop, which we all know is
Well,
real.
he's not. Well,
Okay, wait. Here's my explanation
well-
for that. Here's my explanation for that.
He's married to Liz, who's now known as Betty Boop.
Yes. While he
Yeah.
was working at Sub, while he was writing the comic under a lie, saying he was being
Yeah,
married to
wants to be
Betty
blind.
Boop, and he was lying that whole time. He was under so much stress that he couldn't keep a job at a place as good as Quiznos. He could only really get a job at Subway because their standards are so low. But then when that burden was off his chest and he started getting his life back together and he started going on actual dates with people, then he was able to get a job at Quiznos. But he didn't show that because it wasn't relevant to the comic. It wasn't relevant to the story he was telling.
You know what is relevant to the story he's telling? What the text says in panel 1,
Oh yeah,
which is Bugs Bunny saying, "That's crazy!" Double electric point. You're married to Betty Boop. What is it called?
Bang.
AU Bang.
Yeah, you bang. Yeah, you.
Well, yeah, that is a pretty good point. Maybe this is like a prequel comic, and this is like
What?
Like
What?
No, that's not
What
what,
are
I
you
was saying.
talking about?
I never said it was a prequel comic.
or like some kind of like a flashback, for
No,
example.
no,
like,
no, no.
You know,
Well,
in the first
no.
in the first strip, it was established,
Have
but
you,
it was then under the implication that no one else knew except for us, Alec, and Betty Boop. Also, it's like, okay, well, also in the first comic, we also know, like, started from the second strip, we knew that in the first strip, even Betty Boop's family didn't know, which is why the dad sent this copyright letter, because he disapproved of the marriage, and he didn't know until the first strip came out, right? So I believe that at this time, this 201st strip takes place at around this time when we all get to know that he's married to Betty Boop.
Well, I mean, they kind of
And
already
better
have,
yet, better yet,
it's-
how he met Betty Boop? I mean, it's anyone's guess. So
Well,
it's likely,
we know how
it's
he
likely
met this
that
Betty
he
Boop.
already works at Quiznos by the time that the comic begins.
No, because all of that didn't happen.
Have you how much of Mr. Boop have you read, by the way?
I read a lot.
Pants mode.
Don't you dare question my knowledge. I am a lore master here, And you dare question my knowledge because my theories conflict with your views.
Anyway, Alec responds. He's blushing.
I am being canceled here, people.
He's blushing and he says, "Yep, electro point." And Peter Griffin is behind Bugs Bunny in the background, and he's got a speech bubble with a single electro point in it. It's like drawn and bold. It's drawn and not just
that's like a Metal Gear ass electro point.
I suppose. I wanted to comment on the logos. I know I brought this up that the logo is different now. That's not what I meant to bring up. I didn't even notice when I brought it up that the logo is different now. But that happened in 2021, so it doesn't matter because that's after the comic was written.
Yeah. After we're reading it.
But the Quiznos logo is just a Q, but it's like all brand logo-y. It's like two little swishes. They made
That's my favorite way to describe a brand logo. Oh, it's all brand logo.
Yeah, well, they were like,
it does
let's make it
of like a speech bubble, also.
Yeah,
or
they made
like
it like
some
all
kind of like
fancy,
a
like
swirling
it's like
cloud,
swish,
like a tornado.
Swish. But the way it's drawn on Alec's shirt, because it just looks like the normal logo on Bugs Bunny and Peter's shirt, but Alec like drew it in a weird way, I think unintentionally, on his shirt, where it looks more like a speech bubble. It also kind of reminds me of like a question mark, like the Riddler logo in Batman Forever, sort of question mark.
That's
And that goes with quiz in Quiznos. What does Quiznos mean? What is Quiznos? What is a Quizno? Is that a person?
I mean, Quiznos could be like some kind of like an ancient word.
No, I'm asking. I'm asking literally. What is who? What is the name? Like, what does that come from?
Well, maybe we'll find out in panel 2.
Okay.
Where we see Peter Griffin, and he says, "Holy crap! She's the hottest woman. She's the hottest babe alive."
Note that he says like 2 exclamation marks instead of like 3 because they know they're in a public place, so they cannot be as loud.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, that's true.
Points, but...
I mean, Peter Griffin is known to break rules, so for him to acknowledge these rules in his workplace is very, very, new about him. But of course, this does take place like way earlier than we know.
It doesn't. I know. That's what a speech bubble from the left says. It says, "I know, yes. Electro point," and that's Alex saying that.
Then in panel 3.
Wait a second.
Okay.
It's kind of dawning on me that Alec is suggesting here that he's like married to the literal Betty Boop, like. I don't know, because they're saying she's the hottest babe alive. Surely the hottest babe alive would be the actual Betty Boop, right?
Yeah, but I mean the actual.
That's what I've been trying to tell you, but you
no,
just
but
think that
but
it's
what
not
you're
true
saying
because Bugs Bunny's there.
No. What you're saying didn't happen because he said none of that happened. He already confessed none of that happened. He didn't marry the real Betty Boop.
But
he never married the real Betty Boop. It didn't happen.
Yes, but this strip.
I know you don't want to believe it, but it's
place
true.
Around the time we know that he says that he's married to Betty Boop.
Yeah, but
so
the
you're
woman,
okay.
the woman
hang on.
He's
no,
married to.
I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying
finally.
You're saying this is a flashback to when he was lying.
Yes, it's a flashback to where he was talking about being married to Betty Boop.
So you're saying he's lying again?
Ryan, I have some crazy theories on this.
Is he lying again if it's a flashback?
Yes, because he was lying at the beginning of the comic.
Yeah,
all the first.
Perhaps it's like another event of lying. So yeah, technically he is lying again.
No. Listen, the first 3 volumes of this strip were all fictional. They were all a lie. But then in volume 4,
book 4 is true.
Yeah, everything since the start of volume 4 has been true because he was no longer lying about being married to Boop. But since then, he has married someone who is also named Betty Boop and looks like Betty Boop now, cosmetically. But what you're suggesting is that this is a flashback to the beginning strip, which was all a lie, which would mean that this is a lie also. Also, it would be a prequel too. It would be before the strip started because he would. I feel like you're suggesting he was working at Quiznos
or during the time. So
he was working at Subway before. So that would mean all three of these guys switched from Quiznos to Subway.
Yes.
Which would be a downgrade.
Why do you think that Alec is? Well, no. First off, I'm going to talk about panel 3.
Maybe we'll find out later about like some event at Quiznos that caused them to move to Subway. We don't know.
Why do you think, other than like this being your explanation, why do you think like artistically he would choose at this point in the strip to suddenly start lying again, and suddenly like go back to when he was lying?
Well, if the theory about it being a flashback is true, it's probably because, he convinced himself that he is married or wants to marry Betty Boop, right? But if it's not a flashback...
That's holding up a little bit.
So because he married this woman who is named Betty Boop and now looks like Betty Boop, now he has, like, withdrawn back into the fantasy world.
Exactly.
I think that's true. That's right.
He's repeating his lies. He's repeating his fantasies. He's going crazy.
I wouldn't argue that it's before book 1, but I'd say this is more concurrent with book 1. It's it's a retelling. Speaking of retelling, I'm going to retell you guys what's in panel 3.
Reading is that he has withdrawn back into the fantasy, but the timeline stuff is a bit weird there. What you're describing.
And I'm describing panel 3.
I guess.
We are talking about like an autobiographical comic.
No, but your theory
of
of like where this takes place on the timeline is a bit strange. I don't really follow how this could be at the beginning.
There are franchises with confusing timelines like Zelda, Kingdom Hearts. I wouldn't question this being one of them.
You know what else is
Mario.
confusing? Why you guys haven't let me talk about panel 3. In panel 3,
because we are not over panel 2
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. That's why. No, Mario is another one with the confusing timeline.
Yeah, Alec
right?
Robbins did a series about the Mario timeline.
Yeah.
Alec Robbins also did a drawing.
I think one thing that supports Pance's theory is that
appears in panel 3.
Is that Bugs Bunny is working here at this sandwich restaurant, whereas before in the lie narrative, Bugs Bunny had quit. Had he quit Subway?
I don't think he ever worked at Subway, right?
Huh? No, he had stopped working at Subway at one point, right?
I think he was fired because he
was fired because he tried to kill Alec, or he wanted to kill Alec, or I guess he tried to kill Alec.
He did try to kill.
I had assumed that Peter Griffin replaced Bugs Bunny there, but I guess this strip kind of implies, in a way, that they were all working there together, and Peter was just never shown before Bugs Bunny quit or was fired.
Well, okay. Can we move on to panel 3?
Okay,
maybe. Here's my craziest theory yet.
Okay.
Maybe the moment where we know that this is real and this is the real Betty Boop reality. What if it's just a repeat of that lie phase, but we don't know it because he convinced himself that it's true.
Isn't this exactly what you were saying before?
I think that's
the Betty
that
Boop,
is the reading.
And
that is yeah.
This is exactly
I think
what
that's
you were
what is
saying,
implied.
though.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention there's a sneeze guard at the bottom of panel 1. Which
you know what it says you know what there is in panel 3.
This is what suggests that they're at Quiznos and not just wearing Quiznos uniforms.
In panel 3, we see Alec. He's looking to the right.
Although here's what I like about the sneeze guard on panel 1, right? I'm very confused about like how it's pointed. Is it like pointing towards us or pointing towards them?
No, actually, I was thinking about that. It is curved a little bit.
There's no more
the
context clues that could help us.
No,
with that.
The curve I think suggests that it is curved inwards towards them.
No, it's not. I can see it both ways.
How do we know it's curved
like
inwards and not outwards?
It's like
how would it be
you
curved
can
outwards?
tell both.
Look at it.
No, you can. No, you can tell if it's like, going. Yeah, I can see it both.
Because it's going slightly to the right.
Maybe,
it doesn't have any any indication of depth.
Maybe just because I would assume. Maybe it's just because I would assume they're behind the counter anyway. But in my first glance,
That's another thing. It plays with our assumptions. This whole timeline, this repeat or the reality phase. Maybe it's just playing with our assumptions.
I don't think he put as much thought into it as this. I think he just drew.
We are talking about Mr. Boop, Ryan.
We're also talking about Alec Robbins, who draws a daily comic strip about being married to Betty Boop. So I don't think there's this
Ryan,
much.
Ryan, I don't think you understand the situation here. We are in a podcast.
This isn't
right?
Garfield
about the comic Mr. Boop, right? And you're saying that he does not put much thought into his comics? Yet we are 200 episodes
sometimes.
in, and we are analyzing minutes upon minutes these panels.
Some things are worth
talk about their
overanalyzing.
philosophical meanings, their literal meanings, and the characters'
I don't think
placement.
there's a meaning behind the way the sneeze guard is drawn. I think.
How would you know that? How would you know that?
I think the way to overanalyze this part of it is to say that he didn't put a thought into it. That is its own overanalyzation, is to say that.
You know,
you don't have to make up a meaning to overanalyze.
You know that
it. You can just say
on
what he was thinking while he drew it, which is nothing. He just drew it.
You guys know that documentary on the Shining conspiracy theories? I think I'm gonna make that about Mr. Boop. I think I'm gonna make.
All right. So what happens in panel 3?
In panel 3, we see Alec looking to stage right? And he says, "Trust
stage
me."
right?
Yeah, right.
He's just looking
over
to the
his
left.
head is panning stage right, but he's looking left.
Oh,
so he's probably looking at the most left he could.
He's just like glancing away slyly, away from Bugs Bunny, like not making eye contact and smirking, and he's doing a talkie. He's extending his arm, doing a talkie, and he's got a speech bubble. What does it say, Lisa?
And look at his eyes. His eyes at panel 1. They're all white with black borders, right? They're all black in the panel 3. So what would that tell us? What would that tell us?
Oh, he's gone mad.
Actually, if you zoom in, this is just.
I mean, there's a slight white dot.
It's
but
just
I don't
a
think
thicker
that's
line drawn. That's all it is. It's a thicker line.
Well, I mean, I would support that theory if if the center was white. Also,
I know this is,
but it's not.
I know I'm being hypocritical here, but not every little thing about the strip needs to be a theory.
Again, how would you know? We wouldn't be doing this podcast if it wasn't like every panel didn't have a meaning. We wouldn't be doing this podcast, right?
I don't know if that's true.
Well, I mean, every panel has a meaning, but sometimes it's surface level.
Yes, and that is its own overanalyzation. Was my point? Is sometimes just the straight reading of it can be an overanalyzation if you just like point that out. That it is,
which is what we do here.
Face value.
Well, maybe I'm over analyzing it. Maybe I'm over analyzing it. Yeah,
maybe.
But you never know. You never know. He's a sophisticated artist. He knows what he's doing.
I think there is.
He's made an epic with this Mr. Boop comic.
I think
I'm just gonna leave it on the table. Maybe we know less than there's actually, in this.
I think,
and he says, "Trust me, I know it's crazy, but it's completely true." Double electro point.
It's completely true. I think we have at this point. What do you think, Lisa? Do you think we have at this point put more time, like, as a whole? If you just add up all the minutes of the podcast together, do you think we have spent more time thinking about Mr. Boop than Alec has?
I mean, we took all that time off, right? So it's hard to tell, hard to really count it up, right?
I mean, it depends on how long we've done this podcast.
Yeah, physically, we've been doing. He did Mr. Boop for less than a year, and we've done this we just hit the 1 year anniversary.
No, I'm saying if you added up every runtime of every podcast episode together.
I don't know.
I mean, that's
He spent,
that's kind of hard to judge because for podcasts to be recorded, you have to think of something first. You guys have spreadsheets, right?
I think I'm kind of like we don't spend every minute of the podcast talking about Mr. Boob, unlike we have today. We spent a little bit of time talking about Quiznos.
Well, yeah, a little bit too much. I agree, but that's entirely my fault.
No, but we do.
I've gotten too much into the Mr. Boop mode today. I mean, usually I just read it on Wednesdays, but
yeah.
You skip the Monday.
We don't talk about Mr. Boop on every minute of the podcast, but
I do read the Monday and Friday ones on Wednesday.
We do think about it a little bit off air as well. So I'm just kind of like, okay, that makes up for the time we don't talk about it on air. So I'm just saying, if we added up every minute of every podcast episode combined, the runtime of that, do you think we have spent more time talking about Mr. Boop than he has thinking about? I definitely think we've spent more time talking about Mr. Boop than he has.
When he spent talking about it?
I definitely think we spent more time talking about it than he has.
I think, yeah. It's not.
But I don't know if we spent more time thinking about it than he has. That's what I'm not sure of.
I think it's probably, it might be equal. Because when you're writing a comic, you do think about it quite a bit,
Yes, and I'm counting that. But I also think since it was a daily strip, and then eventually 3 times a week, but still, like, the strips I would imagine take about as much time. Except maybe the beginning of volume 4, that
would
he doesn't take
like
but he doesn't. I would imagine he doesn't take that much time out of the day to draw these. I think he probably draws these up pretty quickly and probably like thinks of the whatever the joke's gonna be. Probably doesn't spend that much time on it either. I think it just kind of it's improvised to an extent.
I think he plots. Well, I mean, we know he plots out the books.
Yeah, he plots out the story, but I think maybe like the individual strips are a little bit more freeform.
It's hard to know.
Yeah,
it's hard to know.
That's not something we've really talked about that much, but
we see Bugs Bunny, and he thinks to himself, "I'm so jealous." And the shadow synopsis, the Patreon description reads, "It's the regular comic again, Mr. Boop stuff now." It's the regular comic again, regular Mr. Boop stuff now.
I can't believe he's so bold-faced about it.
It feels so unassuming, but there's definitely something going on behind those eyes of Bugs Bunny when he thinks that he's so.
Why do you think he's?
Why is that unassuming? He clearly is angry.
He's
having very angry
description of the comic is unassuming because it just says like,
I
it's
see.
just not a regular comic, and not part of like some bigger lore.
I don't think he was even. I don't think that's even what he meant. I think it's just like
this is just how Mr. Boop always was.
Yeah. Well, not even that. I actually read it more as like he knows he's lying again, and but he's just being bold-faced about it. Like, yeah, it's a lie again, or he's not even saying it's a lie. We know that it's a lie, and he's just like, yeah, well, anyway, this is what it is again.
If this is like.
Wait,
of course, then we're going back to the whole when this takes place thing, but if it's not a flashback and it takes place after he marries the real Betty Boop, then how would Bugs think that he's just lying again?
I think this interpretation of it being a flashback makes it much harder to discuss.
No. I'm trying to say, like, if we discard it, if it's true that it's not in that like earlier spot, then how would Bugs assume that he's just being bull-faced about lying?
I'm not saying Bugs is assuming that. I'm reading his Patreon description as that. He's not. Bugs can't see the Patreon description. I guess he could if he logged on to Patreon.
I'm not talking about Bugs reading the Patreon description. I'm not even talking about the metaphysical
that's what I was talking
relationship between the comic characters, the comic world, and the real world.
That's what I was talking about when I said he was bold-faced. I was talking about the Patreon description.
I just have something to bring to your attention. On the 200 Patreon description, it described a time loop. Remember? It said Mighty Max is sent into a time loop, blah, blah, blah. But also, someone has commented on this saying, the Quinzo's hat seems to indicate that this isn't a time loop after all. Interesting. Quinzo. Either that, or Alec,
Quinzos.
Bugs, and Peter all quit their job between comic 1 and 12 of the original timeline and started working at Subway together. This guy has the same insane theory that you do.
Yes.
I think it's impossible to tell. But listen,
then again,
listen.
It's just a theory.
Fuck all that.
We
Shut
know
up.
that
Forget
Alec
about all
confirms
that.
it.
Forget about the timeline. Forget about all that. We can't spend that much more time talking about this. What I'm saying is, it's weird the way he's addressing it in the Patreon description, because it feels like, yes, as the author, he is like receding into the lie, and like in convincing himself, like he's convinced himself he's married to Betty Boop again, the actual Betty Boop, and not just Liz, aka Betty Boop. Now he actually is like believes the lie himself again. Yeah. But in the Patreon description, it's like that's the case, but he's also like, he knows that he is receding. He's like aware of that he's receding into the lie.
I don't think that the Patreon descriptions are in character. That's my take.
You're saying aren't or are?
That could be possible.
They're not
that
in
could be
character.
possible.
I think they're partially in character.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Well, I mean,
it's hard to judge.
He's not like he has a meta, like a meta description of like of the events going on. Like his Patreon descriptions are, go along with what's going on. It's not like he's commenting as an outside force.
I think he sometimes does. In the 200 one, he says like, "Oh, it's not over yet." Blah blah blah.
Well, sometimes
he talks about his plan.
But sometimes he's like, "Oh wow, this is crazy. What's going on?" But like, I don't think that counts really.
Here's the thing. If the comic is like any partial autobiographical, then how can we distinguish the Mr. Boop and
it is
Alec?
Autobiographical.
Yes. How can we distinguish like if the Patreon description is in character or not? How can we judge the whole aura around it?
I mean, that's the thing, and that's why it is like mostly that is why I read it that way. I think because he used to write these type of descriptions when he posted the comic to Twitter, so it'd be like as like the main posting of this strip to Twitter has these like little notes as well. But now they're just on Patreon.
Interesting. I was reading through book 1 again. We only know Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny only knows Alec through Betty. Like, Bugs and Betty seem to be friends.
Well, don't they work at the same...
Not until later that
job.
Oh, that's true. But the first time we see Bugs is he's talking to Betty. I just wonder what the decision... Why did he decide to make to put Peter here, and why did he decide to change it to Quiznos? I'm not too sure what the
you mean now.
Significance is.
Yeah, it is weird, especially because it's been a while since I've read the end of the comic, and I don't want to scroll ahead too much and I want to like kind of go in fresh again in the subway, but. It is. I do think it's odd. It is an odd choice to bring Peter back for this because he was kind of a later addition than like Bugs and even Sonic, a little bit later. He's like a season 2 character, not literally, but like if this were a television show. Peter is the Asuka or whatever of Mr. Boop. Because Asuka didn't come in till like a third into.
Like what do you mean by that? Asuka and Mr. Boop. What do you mean?
Yeah, what are you?
Because Asuka, how do you say?
Oh, the Evangelion. I'm sorry. I fucking Duh.
Well, I mean,
what? How do you say?
Well, I mean, we know what you're referring to, but how does Asuka's relationship to the series Neon Genesis Evangelion
because
match
she only
with
comes
Peter
into
Griffin's?
the show like a third of the way in, even though she's one of the main characters.
I think she shows up close to like just at the end of the first quarter of the show, right?
Either way,
intriguing.
I feel Peter came in pretty much the same place.
I think that this strip all of Peter's lines could have been said by Bugs Bunny. right? But I think that this, to me, reads that Peter Griffin is going to have a role that Bugs Bunny can't later on, and then we need to establish if he's working for.
I don't remember if he does.
If Peter
but that's
Griffin
possible.
is the one saying Bugs' lines, then why
he
would
barely fits
Bugs
in panel
be
1.
affiliated this thinking on the panel 4? Why is Bugs affiliated with the thinking of
because he's
being
the hottest
jealous?
Baby. He's the hottest.
Is it because
baby
Alec
alive.
associates Bugs with negative emotions and Peter with positive emotions?
I'd like to discuss this further with you. Here's my pamphlet. I
think this is that's another thought. But
I think you've been listening to Being Mr. Boop.
Good.
Huh?
I have. I've told you. I've listened to the whole podcast.
Yeah.
Good. And you can listen to more.
You can visit the show's website at www.beingmrboop.com for our full catalog of episodes that you've already heard, and to sign up to host the podcast. No, you can't. No more sign up to host podcasts. Remove that from the thing.
How do we do that? Do I just
just take it out.
Okay.
But what you can still do is you can still follow for more updates at Mr. Boop Pod on Twitter. I'm Lisa Doop. Pomade, I guess. Contact me if you're interested in Valnus Fat's remake. Yeah,
whatever she just said. I'm at CandyMemo6 and at Semi-Sweet Stuffs for everything else I make. I post my food somewhere. Find it.
And my name is Pants Mode. Boop oop a doop.
Boop oop.
Thank you and good night,
all of you. Is Ryan posting the next one, or is it?
This podcast was brought to you by the Pitch Drop Podcast Network. Like what you just heard? Support the show by going to patreon.com/Pitch Drop. And while you're at it, check out pitchdrop.net for more of this and other shows.